is going to interview Dominic Watters, who has been really at the forefront of this and has been very much involved in the blogging that we've done, has been very much a voice of what life is like with, you know, kids, with economic pressure, with inflation, and what it actually means to families. And I think that we would all do very, very well by really understanding the actual decisions that people have to make on lower incomes and who are facing lots of other sort of pressures, both social and work pressures. Dominic, really, really wonderful to have you here. And I hand over to Anna to interview you.
Thank you, Laura. And wonderful to have you with us, Dominic. I'm hoping that I'll be able to see you on my screen in a sec. Sorry, there we go, there you are. Nice to see you, and thank you so much. So this is Dominic Watters, who's been one of our lead bloggers for Breadline Voices, and is leading an incredible campaign around trying to get food insecurity greater attention really within the whole profession of social work, which is really amazing. So Dominic, you've written in your blogs quite a lot about what it's like to live in a food desert. You talk about living in a food desert in the Garden of England, and you've talked about some of the impacts of the current inflation and the cost of living crisis on just everyday decisions. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that and the experiences that you might see other families going through in your neighbourhood? Tell us a little, bring some of the issues in Broken Plate to life from a kind of real practical perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Anna, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm a single dad. I live in like the most deprived blocks of my council estate with my amazing daughter, and we survive off universal credit, child benefit, free school meal vouchers, and also, yeah, we've also like only got pay-as-you-go gas and electric. Yeah, so as you kind of highlighted, the estate, it's a food desert. There's real lack of access to nutrition and also to fuel. So like just to top up, your gas and electric so you can kind of like boil your kettle or cook food is an issue, which also I think speaks to a couple of the metrics reflecting on it, because I love cooking for my daughter, and we have to use Canterbury Food Bank quite a lot, but that helps us with sometimes rice, pasta and tins and stuff, and then we can get fish. But cooking from scratch costs a lot more, like cooking chicken for 45 minutes or frying for a bit, then in the oven, like that. You're mindful that costs a lot more on your gas and electric than sticking something in the microwave that is just a ready meal. And yeah, and just in terms of like social work, so when I started, there was studying social work, there was no work being done in terms of food insecurity and social work, and kind of ever since then I've had like a focus on bringing that inequality of food insecurity directly into the domain of social work, because ultimately a hungry child is a child in need. And so I think that I think it's because of a level of snobbery that is shared in many professional environments, but there's been a real lack of focus on children living in poverty.
Thanks, Dominic. And you talked quite a lot about cooking for your daughter. You've also talked about the free school meal vouchers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, because that's such a topical thing at the moment as we sort of start to think about the summer holidays, and I think you're concerned about how whether those vouchers are going to actually enable you to get the food that you need to eat well during the holidays.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I've started like a campaign that's having a bit of impact called Food is Care, and it's amazing now to be, you know, recognized by, you know, leaders in the profession and the Food Foudation, which, you know, having me like a voice of council estate poverty here with the launch of the report kind of speaks to that co-production and between, you know, people with living experience of the inequality and absolute leaders in the profession. But in terms of the free school meals, it's like what you could get for £3. So a free school meal voucher that I get for my daughter it equates to £3 a day, but that's not including weekends. So I think it's like during the summer holidays, it's like £2.14 a day, 14p a day. But what you could get prior to like the cost of living crisis and prior to COVID, the amount of food you could get for £3 is a lot more than what you can get now. And so like coupled with the, you know, the overpriced pay-as-you-go gas and electric, coupled with the lack of access to nutrition, with the only shop on the estate stocking, you know, lowest quality of produce, and then like, you know, seeing how like other families maybe going on holidays and doing these sort of things, when you're just struggling to even consider literally the bare necessities, on top of that having universal credit saying that they've overpaid you and not paying your rent or not contributing towards your rent arrears, which leads to letters seeking like possession of your properties, you're facing homelessness. Like it's a whole lot to juggle, and it really like it shows how food is way more than just what we eat. The whole system, it puts in place like lack of access to actual social mobility, and yeah, I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's why you've really, I mean, I think in telling that whole, all the knock-on implications or the ways in which life is so connected and complicated to keep everything kind of moving in the right direction. You've challenged us around sort of the definitions around food security, haven't you? I mean, your sort of leadership on this agenda has just been amazing, and it's been such a pleasure to work with you on it. But I think you've challenged us to sort of not talk about lived experience, but to talk about living experience, to think about food security in terms of not just the economic impact of food insecurity, but what it means for your social relationships and communities, and in you know the people that your relationships with loved ones and so forth. And it's been thank you for being so sort of open with your ideas and your experiences, because I know that they just really help to explain to people the sort of reality, and particularly the reality now when the cost of living crisis is just having such devastating effects. Thank you for joining us, Dominic. I'm going to if you wanted to have a final word on anything, you're very welcome. Go for it.
Well, thank you, Anna. I would just say that, like, yeah, thank you so much for like, and it shows anyway, just it's amazing that my work has a bit of an impact. But yeah, so like after locating gaps in like law, policy and practice guidance, in particular in kind of social care and social work, I've designed like a poverty and food insecurity module that is like the first of its kind, and it's unique, that is from a voice of living experience of these inequalities. And yeah, if it's okay to just quickly promote, hopefully it will drag me out of the impoverished situation where I speak to you from now, even though I got a new kitchen after 15 years due to Twitter and stuff. But yeah, so, and my work's been endorsed by the amazing Food Foudation and David Brindle. But what I've done is I've created a food inequality framework that kind of mirrors the idea of micro, meso, and macro. And it goes from food poverty, food insecurity to food inequality. And I'd love to be able to share that with more people and my work in the future. So just thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Dominic. Just remind us what your Twitter handle is called, so people might well want to follow you.
Oh, wow. It's called I'm Single Dad SW. So at SingleDadSW.
Yeah, do follow Dominic. He's got loads of fantastic ideas and his campaign's really gaining momentum. So over to you now, Laura. Thank you, Dominic, very much.
Thank you, Dominic. And maybe we can put your Twitter handle in the chat. Dominic, you actually keep us true to our mission. And I really wanted to thank you for being such an important part of the Food Foundation. And being,
wow.
You should look at the chat. Please do look at the chat. You can hear exactly what people are saying. And so a huge thank you.